Rothman and Ice.
Sponsored by Pella Columbus, the #1 rated windows and doors in Columbus.
All right, back here on Rothman and Ice. Ohio State Championship Week. Incredible story. The expanded playoff, giving a very talented, determined team another chance at becoming the last team standing. And I always said that, Maddie, you heard me. I always said that the last time I checked, the criteria is to be the last team standing. How you get there, what you go through, what it takes. Until they knock you out, you are not out. And as long as Ohio State was in the tournament, I remember saying before the season, there are certain teams that are the last teams you might want to see if you were a higher seed.
Yeah.
Where you're taking on a multiple loss team that is viewed as a contender, and now they're in your bracket and you have to face them. And Ohio State became that team. But it took so much. I don't know whether the 3 weeks was the perfect time where it was still lingering and hanging over them, yet it was enough for them to flush and turn the page. Mm-hmm. Where, you know, seasons like when we had Carpenter on, the seasons like where he had to wait from the 3rd week of November to a New Year's Day or later kind of feel, like that amount of time, 5-6 weeks.
Yeah.
It just felt like it was the perfect storm.
It was the perfect storm, and you just had a team that was determined from honestly start to finish to stay locked in, and you talked about them getting into the postseason, and you could just see that this team wasn't going to let anything to get them off track, and they got it done.
All right, you move everything when this guy hits the phone line. The championship coach of your Ohio State Buckeyes, Coach Ryan Day. Welcome. Congratulations again. I'm sure you've been hearing that a lot this week. Thank you for calling. How did you celebrate personally?
It's all kind of a blur. You know, you get back to the hotel and you don't even know what time it is, but you know, you just run it on adrenaline, and you know, you just try to celebrate with your close friends and obviously your family, and that's exactly what we did. And wasn't much sleep the next morning. We had to go to the press conference, myself, Cody, and Will, but we muscled through that, and we've been, you know, quickly enjoying the last few days together. I had a great dinner last night as a team. We had the celebration on Sunday, but the next year's not going to wait around, so we're right back to work.
Coach, Jack Sawyer, you know, did a tremendous job in the Players Tribune. I'm sure you've had a chance to read, you know, some snippets of that and maybe the whole thing. And one thing that we talked about on our show was him taking us behind the curtain a little bit as to where you guys were coming out of the Michigan game and some of the conversations that were had. You as the leader of this ship, talk about what that was like for you to realize what was happening, but also realize we got to move forward and we have an opportunity to do something special. Where were you at as the head coach of this program during that window of time going into the Tennessee game?
I think the first thing is that myself, you know, my family, these players, like there's nobody that can put any more pressure on us than we put on ourselves because we care so much. That's just the way it is. And when you go through that, there's all types of disappointment and frustration. But once the dust settles a little bit, you know, you got to realize, okay, so where do we go from here? And the first thing we had to do is address the problems, get the things fixed that need to get fixed. And, you know, we did that. But it also was an opportunity, I think, for myself to show my family and to show the players life lessons that, and also maybe some fans and people throughout Buckeye Nation that, you know, when things aren't going well, you just got to go back to work and keep fighting and have faith and keep working and keep swinging because, you know, you can be really close to greatness. You just don't know it. And our culture is all about fight. And that's what we did. And it was an opportunity. And then we got a little bit of momentum in that Tennessee game, went out to LA in the Rose Bowl and just caught fire and then rode it from there. And, it's a great story, and we're going to celebrate it like heck on Sunday.
Coach Ryan Day with us here on Rothman and Ice. I will tell you that it's one of those stories I feel like when did you know, maybe you never lost the idea of that you could do this, but when did you know that it's definitely in play? Was it the first quarter of that Tennessee game? Was that enough for you to say, we are back? And I know you don't think ahead and you're not talking about winning other games, but Did you realize that you had the same team but a different attitude? It was an incredible dynamic.
We told the story of some of those wild card teams in the playoffs, like the Giants that one year, and some of the teams in the NFL that when you play in that wild card game and you win and you get some momentum, it can carry you throughout the playoffs if you peak at the right time. And I think in this day and age, it's important that your team is peaking at the right time. And when we came out of the tunnel for warm-ups in the Tennessee game, and I saw the reaction of our players, knowing that there was a percentage of those fans that were Tennessee fans, it was like, okay, this is different. The guys just were. It was a wild atmosphere. It was an electric atmosphere, and the way that we came out of the gates, it was just guys were playing with their hair on fire. And then I had a feeling the preparation heading into the Oregon game, we just kept talking about this team needs to stay together. It's too good of a group. And then once it was 31-0 with like 9 minutes to go in the second quarter at the Rose Bowl, that's when I knew, okay, wait a minute now, we got a chance to go do this thing. And then from then on, it was like, well, this has a chance to be a great story, but the only way that's going to happen is if we win it. And from the Cotton Bowl on, that was the focus. So it was like, all right, let's keep this team together for a couple of weeks. And then it was, wait a minute, we got a great story here throughout the season and throughout these guys' careers. We have to be able to tell the story, and the way that happens if you win it all.
Yeah. Well, to your credit, and I will tell you this, I don't know, you can tell me how difficult it was for you and all that, and we can go through that, but changing a little bit of the philosophy after the Michigan game, and I called it on this kind of the no regrets playbook. You became a throw first team. You just kind of, not through caution to the wind, but you changed the way you approached football games. Was that difficult for you? Because it was eerily similar to a couple years ago when you went and played Georgia and had them on the ropes. That felt like that you changed things. Was that difficult for you, or did you just kind of leaning into, no, if we're going down swinging big?
Yeah, well, I felt like there was a lot of things this season and a lot of times this season where we were still finding ourselves. But certainly coming off that last game, we had to make changes. And great teams make adjustments and make changes, and we all had to agree that these were the right things. But the key is that you identify what really needs to get done, and then you actually go do it. And then there was just a belief that when we came out of that Tennessee game, there was just a different feel from everybody. And it wasn't no huddle. It was still huddle, but it was great execution. And there was we're every time we line up under center or, snap the ball, there's an opportunity to go score a touchdown. And I think everybody felt that on the field in the stadium, and whoever's watching the game, that was the mentality of the offense. But, just as impressive was the defense. I mean, in the way that they played and the number of sacks that they had over that run and how well they played. And, it was fun to be around.
I want to ask you about Will, Coach. This is a guy that we've seen, evolve throughout the year. And it just seems like from the outside looking in that this guy is a tremendous leader, a heck of a player, and just a well-rounded guy as a quarterback, and probably what you want as a head coach. Talk us through that journey from your perspective, going back to last offseason, identifying Will as a guy you would like to have, and then to end up with him up there at the podium with you with confetti falling from the sky as a national champion. What was Will Howard, and what does Will Howard mean to you, and what will he mean to you moving forward?
Yeah, it's what a great personality, leader, and football player he is. It started, around this time last year, and he just came into the program and earned the respect of his teammates. But he's got such a positive mindset. He's got such a great way about him. He's very, very intelligent. He can handle high levels of information. It's one of the things that probably isn't talked about enough is that when he gets up to the line of scrimmage in those huddle calls, I mean, sometimes there's 2 and 3 plays that he has to get to. And it's very, very high level stuff. And he handled it all like a pro. And he also, in the huddle, was looking the other guys in the eye and broke the huddle at the same time, and those other 10 guys were following his lead, and I think all of that stuff played into, the way that we played down the stretch. But, in 1 year, I think Ohio State was great for Will, but I also think Will was great for Ohio State. And he'll go down as a national champ, and I said this in the press conference. There's been a lot of great teams in over 50 years here, but only 3 have been national champs, and he's going to be one of them.
What were you going for in Will that you thought you might get and that might be the X factor that now was officially realized for you? You said a lot of great things about him. He certainly deserves all of it. But a lot of it you may not have known until you saw it play out. What were you going for specifically, and what became real for you?
Yeah, it was the total package, but no question the size and the ability to make an impact with his legs played into that as well. But it was all of it. It was all of it. But running the ball 16 times in that final game made a difference. The 4th and 2 call in the Cotton Bowl to run QB power, even though he couldn't find his way to the end zone because he got tripped up by the 20-yard line. But that's a conversation for another day. He really made a difference with his legs, and that was a huge part of the last month.
Coach, I want to ask you about the national championship game in the opening drive when you watch Riley Leonard, that offensive unit, march down the field and I believe take up almost 10 minutes a game clock. What was the vibe like on the sideline? What did you feel from your defense? Any lack of confidence, or did you just see guys that are veterans, Jack and JT, say, you know what, we're going to find a way. They got us here, but we're going to keep swinging. What was the vibe like on the sideline after that opening drive from Notre Dame in the Natty?
It wasn't as much of a panic as you would think. I talked to Mick Marotti about the 2014 game. I said, how did that, this is like before the game, I said, how did that start? And he said, man, they went right down the field and scored a touchdown on us. And guys came over to the sideline and were huffing and puffing, and he goes, now we settled into the game. And this was not a no-huddle Oregon offense, but it was similar that way. And so in my mind, I was like, okay, if that were to happen, don't panic. Just hang in there. And let's get on the iPads, figure out what the heck's going on, and then get it fixed. There's a lot of quarterback runs in there, and we were being physical. We were hitting them. But they did a nice job. Give them credit. I mean, it was a good drive. It's a national championship game. You're going to have to go toe-to-toe with a very good team. And but the way we responded coming off in the next drive, but that's, again, a credit to our guys. Will being the leader, man. It was great.
Coach Day, you touched on the tablets in there, and that's one thing I couldn't wait to ask you about is the adjustment that you've seen or you've had to make as a coach with the communication this year. What did you learn about that? How did that impact your team with helmet communication and the ability to look at some of the video stuff on the sideline this year?
Yeah, it was different, but it was great. And I thought overall the adjustments that we made as a team and as a staff and as players was well done. I thought we were able to identify what was going on, and then the players to be able to do that. When you're talking about more experienced guys who can see, how the other side is attacking them in that game and then make adjustments, on the sideline. But then even at halftime, it was excellent, and it was different, but it certainly allows us to figure out what is going on, what happened on the last drive. Because when you don't have that, sometimes you can make wrong assumptions. You get one chance to look at it, and the guy upstairs got to be exactly right. But when you have it on the video, you can go back through it and make sure that you're making the correct adjustments.
Or you started by talking about next year already. Unlike this year, is the starting quarterback on your roster currently?
Yeah. These guys are going to compete their tail off. We got some good quarterbacks in the system, and I shared with all of them that now, and this was the week leading up to the national championship game, that you had an opportunity to watch Will lead. And so you got to really utilize that, because that's exactly, what we're looking for in a leader here at quarterback. And so when you guys come back in about 2 weeks, you got to look different, you got to walk different, you got to act different, because now you're fighting to become the starting quarterback at Ohio State. And we have some really talented guys in that room, and looking forward to see what the competition brings.
So you, Cody, and Will are on a cart that runs into a wall down in the hallways of a stadium, Coach. That video went viral. Walk us through your perspective on that moment.
Yeah, it was a wild trip. I felt bad for the girl. I think she was just a little bit nervous, but she gassed it early and just about took out a couple people driving through the field. And then I felt like I was in an Austin Powers movie as we turned the corner there, and she kind of panicked again and gassed it and went right into the wall. And I just got right back into reality. I'm like, 20 minutes ago, we just won the national championship. Now in a golf cart accident. I could have done this back home with my buddies on a golf course.
She didn't say keep your hands and feet inside the ride at all times before you took off, huh?
Can you imagine if my leg was outside of that car? That
I know.
would be a bad deal.
Oh. No, and we're happy that didn't happen. But yes, quite a jolt at that point when you're thinking about getting carted to a title celebration. This has been
the funny thing. Yeah. The funny thing though was Will's reaction and my reaction. Like I'm looking like you can't be serious right now, and Will just can't stop laughing.
No, this is what's supposed to happen to the losing coach and team, not the winning coach.
Come on, guys.
I will say, listen, ups and downs, roller coaster. What'd you learn about yourself this year that you'll carry on for the rest of your life?
Yeah, well, again, Sunday, I'm just really looking forward to celebrating with everybody. And when I say everybody, it took everybody. It took, the fans. You think about this run, like the fans, they came out for the Tennessee game. They were on fire. I mean, that walk at the Tennessee game is as bad as the game was before. Like they were on fire in that game. And it was, whoever was at that game, that was one of the more fun games in the shoe that I can remember. And then, to see all the fans out in L.A. and then to see the fans in Dallas and then to see them in Atlanta. And they were traveling all across the country, and it took everybody. And our team felt that as we went on this run. And then the coaches and the staff and the players and the families, it takes everybody. And good times and bad, you got to rely on the family. And the fans are part of the family, the coaches are part of the family, and the players are part of the family. It takes everybody. And that's why you grab onto those people and you invest in them in the off season, because you're going to go through storms along the way, and you just got to keep fighting. But individually for me, I just hope that maybe there's some people out there in Buckeye Nation that, maybe are going to go through some difficult times over the next year, and they watch the way this team and the way we responded, that you just got to keep fighting. And that's our culture, fight, because that's what life is. It's a fight. And so if there's any motivation that maybe can be grabbed off of this, I hope it helps somebody across the way.
What was meant to be was meant to be. You guys had a date with destiny. Maybe you didn't know about it. Maybe you felt it. I don't know. But there was a lot of heat on you, and maybe in some people's minds, justifiably. You've got a high-pressure job that's very valued. Did you ever feel like you had to win it all to feel like to get some sort of comfort or at peace, or get to the point where you feel like my job wasn't in jeopardy? Did you ever get to that point where, like, I better make this run?
Well, I think the thing is, like, whether it's myself, my wife, my kids, these players, the coaches, like there's not any more pressure than anybody could put on ourselves that we don't put on ourselves anyways, because our expectations are so high, and this is what we do. So we get it, and I get it, and that's just a job. And so, you when you win, you celebrate. When you don't, you got to figure it out and get it fixed. That's just a job, and that's the way it works. And but more importantly than what you were just talking about, this is about the players and all the work that they had put in, and the guys who decided to come back. And there's a lot said about this roster and all the things that came with it, and just put so many expectations on these players. But like at the end of the day, the majority of them were homegrown, man, and they just love being Buckeyes, and they just wanted to win for themselves. They also want to win for all the fans and for Buckeye Nation. So that's why sometimes you do feel the pressure, but that's the pressure we put on ourselves, not anybody else. Yeah. We just love the passion of the fans and the people that support us.
You got it done, immortalized in Buckeye history. Congratulations again. I know that along the way it was probably very difficult at times, but look at this. Look where you are now. You've been a very easy guy to root for, and we appreciate your time. Enjoy Sunday. Soak it in. And I know you'll turn the page very quickly, but we thank you for this, and I hope that you're able to step back and at least take it all in and not push it aside so fast.
No, we got to enjoy it. And again, noon the shoe was an unbelievable opportunity to bring everybody together. Because again, it took everybody.
Yep. So
we're going to be there. The mayor's going to be there. The governor's going to be there. You'll hear from players. I'm going to speak. There'll be videos. I mean, it's going to be a great day to celebrate this team. And looking forward to Sunday and looking forward to seeing the Buckeye Nation out there in the shoe.
Thanks, Coach. Hope we connect soon. Congratulations again to you and your staff and all your players and your family.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Go Bucks.
Coach Ryan Day with us here on Rothman and Ice. What a way to wrap up the week. And we'll come back and do that in our final few minutes. Rothman and Ice on the Fan.